Hello, darlings. Oh, I'm coming to you from my parents' house. I don't know if I'll even post this, but I thought I would share what it feels like, what life feels like when you're living multiple lives at the same time. And what do I mean by that? I've talked, it's a good thing, positive thing. I know there are some lovely, lovely people who like, if I shed a tear, are like, what's wrong with you? Are you okay? I'm always okay. Um, Thank you. And I hope you're well. And I know there's a lot going on right now. And I literally send you love every day, even if you're on here for the first time. Welcome. You're not here by accident. And if you're here for, this is the normal preamble, you can skip a few seconds if you are used to it. If you're here for accent training, head on over to the at 21 Accents or just the 21 Accents channel. Because although I do often, change between different accents, I don't do the training here. That's on that channel, so you find all that you need there. Right. So I've spoken about bits of this over the years. But it's in a new threshold for me, a new level of saturation, which I could probably safely say we're all maxed out in a lot of ways at the moment. Yeah, do you resonate? But I was sort of, and that there's a whole different realm of that I'm talking about here. So I've talked about that at different times, and I did a whole video recently about ways to sort of deal with the times and how we engage with the times, and how we engage with the times. There are no shoulds in that video or in any of my videos. I simply share things that are helpful to me in case they resonate with you, and all that. I will keep taking deep breaths because there is something about the way that all of my lives have been coming back online for this entire life. What I mean by online is interconsciousness currently, for my entire life. And then there's healing that will come, and there's understanding that will come, and there's like reintegration and learning and all of those things that will come. I don't know why it's an English accent today. It just makes sense. It's raining. I've got tea. I don't know. Thank you for understanding or putting up with it if you don't. Yeah, so it's like hit this point where I am so flooded, as I always increase my ability to embody so much resonance with each new poof that comes through. And it's at one of those tidal shifts where I know that I'm building the capacity for even more because of events that are coming, that I can feel. Okay, let me back up and give a concrete example. Do you know what it's like when, have you ever had this happen? When someone suddenly, like, you smell an aroma you've not smelled since you were a kid, or you hear a song, or somebody walks into your life, or somehow you suddenly remember a whole constellation of experience from earlier in your life that you'd either suppressed or repressed or disembodied from, and therefore disidentified with, or just forgotten, you know. But then something happens and it ripples through your body in a way that you're like, oh my gosh. And then it will make new sense depending on what you know now and who you are now. Do you know that feeling? It comes rushing in and there's nothing like it. It's not deniable, you know, it's just there was a before you knew and then there was an after you knew. And sometimes it's like something that you knew about your parents or something, you know, something that you felt always before, but you were a kid. And then suddenly you realize it and you're like, and everything just goes and into a way of a frame of seeing it that you'd always sort of felt but hadn't really put into words, or and it ripples through your whole body and being, and it changes everything. Yeah. Or it can be for some people like having a diagnosis of something that they felt all the time and just be like, God, am I crazy, or is everything just really really hard or something, and then they go, oh, I'm okay, I just have this thing that's a thing that other people have, and there are ways to live with it or heal it or grow or whatever. Yeah, is that somewhere in there? Hopefully there's an example that you resonate with. Well, I have a lot of those. Yeah, and maybe that's totally a normal thing now. Or maybe it's happened to you once and you like never told anybody or whatever, but there's a reason why I feel called to share this, because I think it's going to be happening a lot more. I think it probably is happening a lot more, and there's nothing wrong with you, and if it's not happening, that's fine too. It's just an option, you know. It's an option. um just like I think I've spoken about my brother who is among the ancestors, and I think I've spoken about, to me it's an option to still communicate with him and still experience him as very 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 much a part of every day. And I do, and I wouldn't have to make that choice, but I choose to. And part of that choice for me includes, as much as I love science, uh, it's enough for me to know that energy is neither created nor destroyed, and that time, as I experience time, is can be experienced in a linear fashion, but it doesn't have to be experienced in a linear fashion. It can be experienced in a holographic fashion, in a singularity, in a multiplicity. So all of that to say, I don't have to like decide that that's his spirit or his ghost or my imagination or any of that. I'm tapping the field that is Adam David Walker, and I'm interacting with that field in my experience. Take it or leave it. But I like that choice. It's wonderful. I get to keep having this relationship with my brother. So similarly, I have just like, I remember being a kid as Amy and being technically a kid, but you know, a small adult, really. I always related more to people my parents' age and than kids for the most part. But just as I choose to remember the memories of my life, most of them, um, I remember I have access to any of my lives. I remember a lot of them a lot of the time, and different ones have come online at different times when I was living in harmonics. You know, I've been grateful to be invited into practice a lot of different spiritual practices from a lot of different places and incredible kin around the world. And each time I hit that harmonic, the lives from that practice will come back for integration. And so, you know, it's been a long, beautiful healing journey, which continues, you know, to unfold. And then each time it's that ripple of like, oh, so much makes sense of things that I'd loved to do, or things that I'd, irrationally feared, or all these different things. Just like, oh, there's that relief of the remembrance. Yeah. Included in that, sometimes it's triggered by hearing a voice, seeing a hand, a person, eyes. At this stage in my life, practically everyone. I actually, like, I walk around and it's almost as if there's a soft focus. If I'm in a, like, if I go to an event, there's sort of like a soft focus, and I just know, like, there'll be one or two, maybe three people who will be clear and sort of lit up. Maybe not all at the same time, but I'll know, oh, I need to talk to this person, and it'll be like, oh my God, this is why. Like, all of these little things will ripple in so intricately and delicately from a project that I'm working on, or from something I can offer for them, or clearly they're going through something and I've been through a lot of transitions, and so I can be there to support or hold space for something that will be at a very deep level, even though we've never met, or something like that. And so I'll know, like, oh, this is why I'm here, or that was that one thing that I needed to experience with that person. Or, oh, that person carries these threads of the fractal. Like, I remember, so we know life is fractal in nature, creation is fractal in nature. One of the ways that I experienced that is I remember the beginning of my time on Earth, and I remember the split of that, two different stages of that. And I remember the other, some will call them twin flames or soulmates, although that's a word that I sometimes use to refer to a lot of different, mates of the soul, friends and all. But this particular experience I'm describing, I remember being a unified whole as two people, embodied as two people, but with such fluidity between us that it was totally unified, our field. And then I remember two different layers of a split of that. And then, so there's this, like, like a field or a bundle or a root of resonances of energies, frequencies that my other half carries, and that we each took into our different lives, which ended at different times and went off, and we had, times where we've crisscrossed. We also split up into all these different bits. So if you think of archetypes, yeah, we tend to gravitate towards or resonate with archetypal stories, archetypal ways of being. That one way you could think of it is, oh, I'm part of the fractal of the warrior, if you identify with that, or the divine mother, if you identify with that, or there are so many different ways that you could think about it, and we can be a part of many different fractals. There are 8 billion of us, and that's just the human side, and that's just the ones currently in body. So I currently, like, I'm learning how to carry, part of this life is I'm learning how to carry awareness of all of my branch, and also reintegrating piece by piece that experience of holding the resonance for both branches and receiving what my other half has been experiencing all the time that we've been apart. So so at different times throughout my entire life, I'll experience like bits, bits of those frequencies embodied in a person. Or I'll see it in a story, or I'll write it. And it's like each time I've increased my ability to hold more and more of those frequencies in body, because like it's a lot. It's a lot when I encounter, like, I was just remembering, I was I mean, I've told about how my brother and I, when we were little children, 5 and however old, like we remembered past lives together. One particular that we used to play games around, and so that was normal to talk about, even though we also somehow knew to not tell anybody else about it, because it wasn't something we'd ever heard anybody else talk about. But anyway, this is sort of a different passel that I'm talking about. So I remember being in like 8th grade, and this boy, I mean, I don't even remember him as a boy. I know that we were children in this, being in the 8th grade. When I look at 8th graders now, I'm like, they're children, but I never felt that way. And we both probably looked about 20. We were both like early bloomers. But I also remember him because I see him through also that fractal energy. And there was just something about, it was just this moment where somehow the teacher wasn't there, or somehow we weren't really learning. And there was this sort of like general chaos going on, not like a riled chaos, but just nobody else seemed to factor into this moment. And I just remember he was sitting behind me, and I looked back, and he looked at me with like these puppy eyes and these very Irish eyebrows, and this and like he had shirt sleeves on, which I noticed today. I'm wearing a button-down shirt, the one that I brought here. It's little things like that that will trigger these moments. I didn't even realize this until after. But anyway, and he was struggling to get to fold up his shirt sleeves. And I was like, I don't know that any words passed, but he just sort of looked up at me, with like the thing. And I just sort of nodded him over, and he sat on the desk by me, and I just, carefully folded up and creased his sleeves, to that like sexy place that men wear them, that's just like here, and then you see the wrist and the hand, and it's just like great, and I was there, but I was also in other lives at that moment, and I was like, these are frequencies from long ago, and this person carries some of those frequencies. And interestingly, like just now sharing this, I'm linking up into that also. Back when I was working with an intuitive healer and coach before I met my husband, that was one of the things she said about him. She was like, I can tell he lives in LA, and he wears the button-down shirts, and he rolls up his sleeves. And, on our first date, my husband, wore a button-down shirt and rolled up the sleeves. And I'm like, and I knew he would because I also felt it and I felt where he was living and all that stuff. But anyway, it's nice sometimes to have somebody who can verify that stuff because it gets easier, it gets easier. And I've had a billion verifications from so many times and ways, and people saying, yes, I also remember that life with you in France or, wherever. Which is great because there are loads that it can take time to verify, or not everybody's in a way where they're going to do that, or they're choosing to remember. Anyway, little things, and it's different to just like being attracted to somebody, because that's also fabulous, or being drawn to something because you like it or something. Like, I know what all of those things feel like, and yes, for me they're also entangled in loads of lives and doing all of the things, but I'm also, it's a totally different thing, just like it's different when like it's different if your grandmother made you a particular recipe of chocolate chip cookies and biscuits, haha, and you love them and you can eat them other places and they're like, oh, really, really good. But it's only when you have the ones that you remember from when you were 5 that you're just like, oh, there's nothing else like this. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, but only in that particular branch that I remember as the twin flame fractal. Does that make sense? Where that particular, like, I've met so many people who carry so many of those resonances now, and then I also embody where they've come to and from, and like it's so much that I can feel it filling me all the way up around my heart. And sometimes, because it's a lot to integrate at the moment, sometimes I can notice myself just singing, or I often lay, like this with hands when I first get up and when I'm just going to sleep, to just let the energy pour through my hands and help me sort of metabolize. Yeah, yeah. So, when you bring in all of there is so many aspects from so many lives. I'll be like currently in feeling many places at once, many times at once. And so when things happen, like a song will come on the radio in a shop, and it'll be, if I was writing the movie of that moment, that would be the song that I would have picked, because all of the words and the singer and the particular music, it perfectly captures the layers, you know, of now and then, because we use those words, and multiple nows from this life, but that just go on, and on and often forward for me as well. Like, there are many, many experiences coming that I like, there are experiences that I've had now that I knew were coming, and so I would tap into them prior so that I could get my body to know how to regulate and stay grounded with that extra charge of what was coming. Has that ever happened? It's really helpful because it's a lot. It's a lot reuniting with your twin flames. It's a lot. And by a lot, I mean ecstatic, and also sometimes it almost impossibly painful, like excoriatingly painful because of things that have happened that need to be acknowledged and healed, but you'll get through. You've already lived through it, you're fine. Or maybe you didn't live through it, but you're here now and you're fine. You know, but the forgiveness, the apologies, the, you know, reckoning, the rebalancing of all of those threads. My sense is that it's something that's happening around the world, and beyond now. It's certainly happening for me. It's been happening for me all this life is a time of that. But yeah, more and more and more and more and more and more and more. So let me know if that resonates. If it is, if it does, if it's what you're going through, I send you so much love and tenderness, and you're not alone. And it's good. I mean, you can't feel like it's wrong. I know you won't feel like it's wrong. It might feel a little bit lonely, but that's okay. You're actually not alone, and you're actually re-merging with all of those frequencies to come into that unity consciousness. So that aloney bit is fleeting. Yay. But also, yeah, this is a safe place if you want to share any experiences. I try and share them so that, you know, maybe you listen to this and you're like, I've never experienced that. But then you remember it a few months or years on, and then you can come back and go, oh my God. Or maybe you don't come back, but you remember, wait a minute, I think this is that thing that Amy was talking about. I think it's happening to me. Because I've also, you know, Nippon and I, my husband and I, we've totally emerged. Auras, I think it was our third date. We were like, all of our energy centers were aligned together, and we suddenly, there was this process happening, and we were like, are you feeling this process happening? And I was like, yeah. This would have been 28 2018 2018. And it was probably 30-40 minutes, but we were like, oh, I think our auras are merging. And ever since then, I've been a very, you know, I'm super sensitive. I was always a very sensitive sleeper, and it was really hard for me to sleep with somebody else in the same room, let alone bed, which is fine. I always, you know, got enough rest, but sleep is eventually required. And so, but because, you know, we often fall asleep holding hands, even though it's a lot of energetic charge. But just because our energies are really, really resonant, from date 3. Yeah. So yeah, that was part of the process as well. Anyway, much love. I hope you're well. And I'm sending you bliss and embodiment, and bringing unity consciousness into the world right here and now, so that the solutions can happen very quickly in this time of WTF. That's the loud bit. The soft, quiet bit is that there's also phenomenally divine transmutation happening right now. And if you're here, particularly if you've gone this far through the video, however long it's been, I know you're one of them. So thank you for all you do. Love to everybody, all of our kin, animals, plants, minerals, elementals. Take care. We are so connected.